I still remember the exact moment my mom said it, like the words were burned into my brain. "We sold the house and helped your brother buy a new one. He needed it more than you." And I just stood there, staring at her, trying to process how helped somehow meant giving him a $950,000 house, while I got nothing. Not even a heads up, not even a conversation. And just when I thought that was the worst part, she added, "Now it's your turn to help the family." That's when everything changed. So tell me honestly, was I wrong for what I did next? I guess I should start from the beginning, because none of this happened overnight. Growing up, my younger brother Adam was always the favorite. I'm not even saying that out of bitterness. It was just a fact everyone could see. He was the charming one, the funny one, the one who could do no wrong. Meanwhile, I was the responsible one, the one who had to figure things out on my own. If Adam got a bad grade, my parents would say, "He's just going through something." If I got anything less than perfect, it was, "Why aren't you trying harder?" I moved out as soon as I could. I worked through college, took loans, lived in a tiny apartment that smelled like old carpet and regret, and slowly built my life from scratch. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. By the time I was in my early 30s, I had a stable job, decent savings, and eventually managed to buy a modest house. Nothing fancy, just a small 3-bedroom, place in a quiet neighborhood, but I was proud of it. Every wall, every piece of furniture, every payment, it all came from my own hard work. Adam, on the other hand, had a very different path. He dropped out of college twice, bounced between jobs, and somehow always landed back at my parents' house, and they never pushed him out. They said he needed time to find himself. That time lasted almost a decade. Then one day, out of nowhere, my mom called me sounding unusually excited. She told me they had decided to sell the family home. The house we grew up in, the one filled with all our childhood memories. I was surprised, but I figured maybe they were downsizing or planning for retirement. It made sense. They were getting older. What didn't make sense was what came next. A few weeks later, I found out, not from them, but from a cousin, that Adam had just bought a massive new house. I'm talking about a huge modern place in a gated community. Swimming pool, home office, everything. I thought maybe he'd finally turned his life around. Maybe he had a high-paying job I didn't know about. So I called him. He laughed. "I didn't buy it," he said casually. "Mom and Dad did." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. Apparently, my parents had sold their house and used the money, almost all of it, to buy Adam a $950,000 home. Just handed it to him. No loan, no conditions. Just, "Here you go." I wish I could say I reacted calmly, but I didn't. I felt this wave of disbelief, followed by anger, then something worse. Hurt, not because of the money itself, but because of what it represented. A lifetime of being second place. A lifetime of being overlooked. I drove over to my parents' temporary apartment that same evening. I needed answers. When I confronted them, they acted like it was completely normal. "He needed stability," my mom said. "You're already settled." "He struggled more than you," my dad added. "This gives him a chance." I just stood there, trying to understand their logic. "So your solution was to give him almost $1 million? "It's not about the money," my mom insisted. But it was. It absolutely was. I asked them if they had even considered helping me, even a little. Maybe with my mortgage, or even just asking how I felt about all this. My dad frowned like I'd said something unreasonable. "You don't need help. You've always managed on your own." And that right there, that was the moment I realized something. In their eyes, my independence wasn't something to be proud of. It was an excuse to give me nothing. After that conversation, I tried to move on. I really did. I told myself it wasn't worth destroying my relationship with my family over money. I focused on my work, my life, my own home. But then, a few months later, they showed up at my door, unannounced. I remember opening the door and seeing all 3 of them standing there. My mom, my dad, and Adam. And there was something about the way they looked at me that immediately made me uneasy. "We need to talk," my mom said. They came inside, sat down in my living room, and my dad got straight to the point. "We've decided to move in here," he said. I actually laughed because I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. Apparently, after buying Adam his new house, they didn't have enough left to comfortably support themselves long-term, and instead of downsizing or planning properly, they had come up with a different solution. "Me, you have extra space," my mom said, gesturing around my house, like she was already imagining where her furniture would go. "It just makes sense. I felt my chest tighten. You want to move into my house? Not just us, Adam added casually. I might need to stay here for a while too. The new place still needs some work. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They had given him a luxury home, and now they wanted to take mine too? I asked them if they were serious. They were. That's when everything started to boil over. I reminded them that I worked hard for this house, that I paid for it myself, that it wasn't some shared family asset they could just claim. My dad's expression hardened. We're your parents. We sacrificed everything for you. I almost lost it right there. Everything? They had just handed nearly $1 million to my brother, and now they were talking about sacrifice? The conversation turned into an argument. Voices raised, accusations thrown. My mom started crying, saying I was being selfish. Adam rolled his eyes like I was overreacting, and I just stood there, feeling like I was finally seeing everything clearly for the first time. So let me ask you, if you were in my position, what would you have done? Would you have let them move in? Would you have just accepted it like I had accepted everything else my whole life? Or would you have drawn the line right there? Because I had to make a choice. And what I did next changed everything. I took a deep breath, looked all three of them in the eye, and said, no. Just one word. But it felt like the first time I had ever truly stood up for myself. The room went silent. My mom looked shocked, like she couldn't believe what she had just heard. My dad's face turned red. Adam scoffed. You're really going to do this? My dad asked. Yes, I said calmly. This is my house. You don't get to take it from me. My mom started crying harder. We raised you. How can you treat us like this? I didn't yell. I didn't argue anymore. I just repeated myself. No. That's when things got ugly. My dad accused me of being ungrateful. Adam called me selfish. My mom said I was tearing the family apart. But for the first time, their words didn't have the same power over me, because I realized something important. They weren't asking for help. They were demanding control. When I didn't give in, they left. But not before my dad said something that stuck with me. Don't expect us to be there for you when you need us. I almost laughed. When had they ever been? The aftermath was messy. They told extended family their version of the story, painting me as the cold, ungrateful child who refused to help his own parents. I got calls, messages, even a few guilt-tripping texts from relatives who didn't know the full story. But I didn't back down. Weeks passed. Then months. Eventually, I heard that my parents had rented a small apartment. Adam stayed in his mansion, alone. And here's the part that still surprises me. He couldn't handle it. Turns out, maintaining a $950,000 house isn't as easy as just owning it. Property taxes, maintenance, utilities, it all added up. Without my parents constantly supporting him, he started to struggle. Within a year, he had to sell it, at a loss. Meanwhile, I kept living my life, in my home, the one I earned, the one I protected. And for the first time, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Looking back, I don't think this was ever really about money. It was about boundaries. About finally breaking a pattern that had been there my entire life. About realizing that just because someone is family doesn't mean they get unlimited access to you or your life. If you've ever been in a situation like this, you know how hard it is. The guilt, the pressure, the fear of being seen as the bad one. But sometimes, saying no is the only way to protect yourself. So if you were on my side in this story, make sure to like this video. And if you've ever dealt with something similar, I'd really want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment and tell me what you would have done in my place. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Trust me, there are plenty more where this came from. I'll see you all in the next story.